Welcome back to Library YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll learn how to make this beautiful overlap sleeveless dress with bishop collar. So it's an overlap dress as we have seen, and it is really beautiful and simple to make. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so this is a very simple sleeveless dress that can be worn alone or worn over a blouse or a shirt. It's an overlap dress, so we're going to be having two front full bodies. So I'm going to be drafting on my pattern before transferring to the fabric, and I'm going to be using this same pattern to cut out both front and back. I'm just going to be modifying it on the neckline, and then I'm going to include zipper allowance for the back. Okay, so let's get started. Here I have my lines. This is my armhole line, this is my waistline. It's an hairline dress, so I'm not going to be working with my hip line. I just measured straight to my blouse, my gown length, and the gown length I'm working with is 38 inches. Okay, so now from the shoulder I measured 8 inches for my armhole, 16 for my waistline, and then 38 inches as my full gown length. So because it's an A-line dress, you can actually cut it on bias if you have enough fabric for it. But I'm just working with a 2 yards of curved fabric, and the length of the fabric is just around 48 to 50 inches, so it's not a lot. So I'm just going to be working with what I have. So what I'm going to do first is to create my shoulder line, and the shoulder I'm working with is 14 divided by 2, that's 7 inches. So I have 7 inches here. There I'm going to go down by 1 inch from my shoulder slope. I'm going to be working with, it's like a bishop neckline, so it's going to be having a collar. So the neck width I'm working with is 3 inches by the depth, the width is 3 inches, and then the depth for the back is 1 inch, while the depth for the front is going to be 3 inches as well. But I don't want it too high, so I'm just going to work with 3.5 inches. So I'm going to connect my neckline now and my shoulder slope. So they are connected now. The next thing, on my armhole line, I'm going to take my bust measurement. The bust I'm working with is 38 inches divided by 4. It's going to give me 9 inches. So I have 9 inches there, and I'm going to add 1 inch for my seam allowance. The crepe I'm working with is a bit stretchy, so I'm not going to be including any dart for this. So after that, I'm going to connect my armhole curve. So we're going to be adding that, so that you may need to consider that when you're working with your waistline. So now that's my armhole curve there. On my waistline, the waist I'm working with is 28 divided by 4 is 7 inches. So I'm just going to mark the 7 inches, no dart allowance, and I'm going to add 1 inch seam allowance to that as well. So now, using the curved side of my ruler, I'm going to connect from my bust to my waist. So like I said, this is an hairline dress, so on the hem I'm not working with the hip line. On the hemline now, the hip that I'm working with is also 38 inches. 38 divided by 4 is going to give me 9 inches. So I have 9 inches there, but because this is an hairline dress, I'm going to be adding extra 3 inches to that to make it 12 inches. Okay, I'm adding 3 inches because that's what my fabric can take. If you want it a bit wider than that, you can add up to 5 inches so that you can have more room on your hemline. But I'm just exhausting what I have here, which is 12 inches. So now from my waistline, I'm going to connect to that 12 inches in a diagonal line, just like what you have here. So now I'm going to use my ruler to connect it like this. Okay, you can see it's just a simple dress. So anywhere you may have any sharp edge, you need to throw it like that. So basically this is what we're doing. And when I was folding my paper, I put it up on fold. Remember, you can see it's on fold here because this is actually an overlap dress, and I'm going to be making that modification, so that's why my paper is on fold. So now I'm going to cut out this shape that I have and then transfer it on my fabric. So after cutting it, this is what it looks like. You can see the hem is just a bit wide because that's the amount of fabric I have. So when you open it up, like I said, it's unfold. This is what it looks like. You can see that we have that A-line effect on the hem. So now I'm going to use this to cut out my front and back first before I modify this pattern to fit into the pattern that I want for my, or you can just modify it since it's just on one side. So let's just draft all of the pattern together now. So for my overlap, so for the main bodies, you're going to cut one of these for your front, and then you cut two for the back, and for the back you're going to be adding zipper allowance for your back. So you can see that I just cut out the front neckline now. I've not the back neckline, I've not touched the front because I'm going to use it. So for the one in front, that's the overlap. On my shoulder point here, I'm going to come inwards by 1.5 inches. You can do 1 inch or 1.25. So let me just do 1.25 inch. So I have 1.25 inch there. So you can see me, I have my crease line very bold. That's the center line. This is my center fold. I have it very obvious here. So what I'm going to do now is to measure from my center line to that new mark that I have there. So I'm measuring now, and I have around 5.5 inches. So to get a perfect straight line, what I'm going to do now, from this crease line that I'm seeing, I'm just going to keep measuring the 5.5 inches. Okay, if you feel it's too much, you can decide to reduce this, because I don't want it to extend too much into my, so here I'm just going to mark 1.5. So after marking 1.5 from my crease line, I'm going to check what I have there, and I have about 5.25. So is that 5.25? So like I said, I'm just trying to show us that it doesn't have to be a particular measurement. You can work with whatever measurement you want. So from the center line now, I'm marking the 5.25. And then after marking the 5.25 all around, I'm going to take my ruler and make that into a straight line. So that is what I'm going to be using as my overlap. We're going to be cutting off this other side. So it is that simple. So when you're cutting your overlap, you can add your interfacing to this side, because it's going to be having a buttonhole, so that you can straighten that buttonhole part. You may need to add interfacing to it so that it can be strong. Okay, so now we have cut out our overlap. So our overlap is going to start from this center line that we have all the way to this side. That's after you have chosen the side that you want for your buttons anyway. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut out my main fabric. This is the back. You can see it's 1 inch longer than the front because of the zipper allowance, and this is the neckline. So now that I have my back, I'm going to cut out the neckline for the front as well. Okay, so it's cleaned off a bit, but I can still see it. So I'm just raising the front now to cut out the neckline that I'm working with for the front. So this is the back neckline, this is the front neckline, and then I'm just going to slash the back open. So now I can cut out this design that I have here for my overlap. So before I remove the back panel on my waistline, to remove the zipper bulge, I'm going to extend my waistline like this, and then here I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch or 1 inch, 0.75, and then I'm going to connect that to my armhole line like this, just like I'm taking a dart. And also I'm going to connect that to my hip line, around my hip line, so you can see what I have there. Then after measuring that, I'm going to bring in my scissors and cut it out. So if you are removing your zipper bulge, so that you're not going to have any shortage, when you are taking your waist measurement, you add whatever you are removing back to it on your waistline. But because I'm working with a stretchy fabric, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. So doing this is going to eliminate whatever bulge that you may want to have on your zipper, especially because this is a stretchy fabric. So now I'm going to keep this aside now, and then slash this so that I can also cut my overlap. So to cut the overlap, all you just need to do is open this out like this, and then we're going to go ahead and cut off this. Okay. So now you're going to cut 2 of this for your main fabric and your lining, so that you can line it properly. Okay, so as you can see, I've gone ahead to cut it out on my fabric. You just place it and cut out exactly what you have there. So I'm working with just 2 yards of crepe fabric, so I don't have enough fabric for the lining, so I'm going to be lining with this bridal satin that you have here. So this is my main fabric and my lining. So if you want to line the main bodies as well, you can go ahead and cut it exactly the same way, but I'm not going to be fixing lining for the main bodies. So now on this part where I'm going to be making my buttonholes, I'm going to go ahead and fuse my gum stay on this part. So you can cut like 3 inches gum stay and then just fuse it to it before you turn it out with lining. You can do that on the main fabric and the lining, so that you can have, just to strengthen that part, so that when you're creating your buttonholes, it's not going to be ripping apart. So I'll go ahead now and do all of that before we start to sew it. Okay, so you can see that my interfacing is fused to it. I'm just going to trim off the excess. I added it on both the lining and the main fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to turn this out neatly. I'm going to place the right side on the wrong side and then turn it out. Okay, so I've laid them on each other and then I've gone ahead to sew it. So I sew it on this center part. That's where we slashed it. You can sew the side, but it's not necessary because it's not going to show. I also turned my hemline as well. So if you're going to be lining the main bodies, this is how you're going to lay them on each other and use them to turn out each other. So now I'm going to turn this out and go ahead to give it a good press. So it is turned and ironed now. I can see that this part that we added our gum stay is strong enough to carry the buttonholes now, and it's also neat. So now I'm going to sew everything together. So I'll go ahead to lay down the front bodies like this and then lay my overlap on it as well. Okay, so you can see the overlap that we have here. You can hold that with a pin, or you can just sew it on this side just to hold it together. You cannot sew this part. Remember, this is where you are adding your buttonholes. After laying both of them down like that, I'm going to lay the back panel on it, just like this, the 2 back panels, and then we're going to go ahead to sew it on the shoulder and also on the side. Okay, so you can see all of them are all together now. I'm going to join it on the shoulder, the side, close the zipper area now, and then fix my zipper. So I'll do all of this now, bring it back to show us. Okay, so the shoulder and the sides have been joined now. This is what the dress looks like. This is our overlap part of the dress. This is the A-line. You can see that it's just a bit, and this is the neckline. So this is what the back looks like. I've joined the back also, and then I have this, my zipper space. So now to cut her collar, all you just need to do is measure around your neckline. So you just take your tape now and then measure around the neckline. So whatever it is that you get there is what you're going to use to cut out your collar. So measuring this round now, I have about, so I was saying measuring around gave me around 22.5 inches. So I'm going to be cutting this on my gum stay directly. So I have it on fold like this, and 22 inches divided by 2 is going to give me around 11.25. So I'm going to measure 11.25 here. Okay, and then I'm going to make that into a straight line. So after measuring it, you are going to roll it. Okay, so now on this is the fold point. On this open point, you can cut the excess off. Then on this open point, I'm going to note the midpoint of this. So the midpoint of 11.25, you can just do that by just folding your tape into 2 like this, and then you note that part, and then you roll it out as well. So here on this lower part, I'm going to come up by 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect it to that midpoint that I marked. Okay, so after connecting it, the next thing is for you to start measuring the height of your collar. So I want my collar to be around 1.5 inches long, so here I'll measure 1.5 inches. I'll do that on the midpoint as well, and then I'm going to do it on that open point as well. So I'm going to connect all of this together. You can use the slightly curved part of your ruler to avoid sharp points, but I'm just going to try to blend it in. So once you have this now, on this upper part I'm going to go in by 0.25 just to shape it a bit, and then I'm going to connect like this. So your collar is ready. It's that simple. So all you just need to do now is to cut this out. Then after cutting it out, I'm going to paste it on my fabric, then add 1/2 inch seam allowance all round. So you're just going to place it on your fabric. Because it's a gum stay, if you use your iron to iron it down, it's going to stick. So after sticking, you add your seam allowance all around it. So this is what it looks like now. I'll go ahead and gum this on my fabric. So I've ironed my stay on my fabric, and I added my seam allowance around it. So I wanted to place it on another fabric to serve as lining. So the next thing you're going to do now is to take it to the sewing machine and then sew it on the sides and as well as the upper part. Then we'll turn it out and iron before fixing it to the neckline. So it is sewn now. I'm just going to cut the corners and then turn it to the right side and give this a good press. This is what it looks like after ironing. So now I'm going to bring in my bodice and sew this round the neckline. Then after sewing it round the neckline, I'm going to hem the armhole. The lower part is already hemmed, as you can see. I'll go ahead and hem the armhole, and then we'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. So after fixing the collar and the armhole area, all you just need to do is to make buttonholes on this part, on the part that we added interfacing to, and then you're going to fix your button here. So after fixing your button, you just use your buttonhole to close it up. So I'm going to just tack my buttons to it now, and then I'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the overlap sleeveless dress looks like. This is the collar, and these are the overlap parts where we'll fix our buttonhole and apply the buttons. It's a short dress and it's really beautiful, as we have seen. So if you want yours to be wider than this, all you just need to do, remember I just added 3 inches to my hip, you can add more to yours to give it that fuller effect on the hem. So this is what it looks like. I just added 5 buttons to mine. You can add more buttons if you want, and can wear this with or without any blouse. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.